Welcome to 33 Fuel podcast. My name is Erika and I'm one of the co-founders of 33 Fuel. Today's guest is Michelle Dillon. She's 2 times Olympic triathlete and now after retiring she is a coach with a huge CV. She has coached Olympic athlete, world-class triathlete. She knows exactly how to extract the maximum from a sport performer. Now she's back competing, and guess what? She's back on the podium as an age group. In this episode, Michelle will unlock the tools how to be the best on your race day. I had lots of fun talking with Michelle. I hope you will enjoy it too. Having this kind of conversation is exactly what is all about 33 Fuel. Our mission is all about giving to you the best tool to raise your performance. We do it with this kind of conversation, so with this podcast, and we do it also in store with our 33 Fuel natural sport nutrition product. All our products are powerful, natural, and they are tasty, and they help you to achieve your goals. It's time to introduce Michelle Dillon. We have a superstar today on our episode. She is a super guest. Her name is Michelle Dillon, and she is a 2 times Olympian triathlete, as well as a world and European champion. So welcome to Michelle. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you very much, Erika, for having me on the podcast today. I appreciate it. It's very nice to be here.
Great. So I was thinking about you because you are such an interesting character. You have so many different, I call it hats in a way. Now, we see you as an Olympian triathlete, and you had a back injury that he had to cut off. For this reason, you had to cut short your successful career as an athlete. So you had to reframe and you switch to coaching. Now you retired, you are a coach, and then you return to compete as a competitive sport. And as soon you came back on podium. That is incredible. So, as I said, I see 3 Michelle Dillon. One is the Olympian triathlete, the elite coach, and returning age group athlete. So, I want to start with Michelle Dillon, the Olympic triathlete. So, you have been such a successful Olympian triathlete, and it must be difficult to keep the focus, especially when you were preparing for the Olympics, to keep the focus on an event like the Olympics, because it's every 4 years. So if I'm an athlete or I'm an amateur, but let's say if I'm an athlete and I wanted to compete a specific race, and I can't because something happened, and then I can be injured or something happened in my life, it changed, I can actually re-enter on more or less the same kind of race. It could be maybe a marathon, it could be a triathlon or Ironman, even the week after. I always find some place where I train a lot and I can actually compete with the same kind of length. But for the Olympics, it's something completely different. You have to wait other 4 years. So how you can keep the focus of your entire training and growth towards something that is unpredictable, if you can really do it or not?
That's actually a really good question, because I came into the sport from a running background initially, and I couldn't swim at all. So I started to learn to swim pretty much when I was around my early 20s. And so I kind of started the sport in around 98, to be honest. And that was 2 years before the first Olympics in Sydney in 2000. And I had a very high work ethic coming from an international running background. So I kind of threw myself into swimming, not really knowing where it was going to go, but wanting to, have the dream of going to the Olympic Games in the first Olympic cycle, which was in Sydney. So I had a lot to focus on in 2 years. So for me, I was working a lot on my swimming, which was my weakness, to try to get that up to the other two, because my biking and my running were very strong. But my swimming was very weak. So I focused on that. But obviously 4 years is different to 2 years. And obviously the next cycle, which was in Athens, which is a 4-year cycle, is a long time. And what I used to do was try to break it into not so much a 4-year cycle, but a yearly cycle, because every year there's always a world championships race where, you could become world champion. There's a lot of World Cups when I was racing. They're now called WTS races, which is World Championship Series races, European Championships, British Championships, and the list goes on. So there was a lot of races to choose from. And what I found the best was to break it down into year by year and say, okay, this year, what do I want to achieve from this 1 year? And work out where I am in each discipline, swim, bike and run. Do I still need to work on my swimming? Do I need to still bring that up? Yes, it's always weak. So yes, try and bring that up. So maybe do a block of swim training through the winter, for example, and then come into the first race maybe feeling like I've been working on that and the other two disciplines aren't maybe up to scratch, and then bring those back in as the year goes on. But the focus on the Olympics, it takes a lot to the 4-year cycle in itself. It takes an athlete who really wants to be there to sort of say, okay, I'm going to make this commitment in the 4 years to be able to get to the Olympic Games, and I'm not going to give up until that 4 years is over, because a lot can happen in 4 years. So therefore, you have to have those little stepping stone races along the way in order to be able to say that the Olympics, if the Olympics is the pinnacle in 4 years, what do I need to do in that time to enable me to get to that Olympic Games? Now, the Olympic Games, I think, is not I wouldn't say the easy part, but it's actually getting the selection to go to the Olympics. That's the hard part. And that comes a year before or 6 months before the Olympics itself. Because the competition is so high, there's so many people going for the spot. So you have to get your timing spot on in order to be able to achieve that goal of ticking the box and saying, I've made it to the Olympic Games. And for me, the Athens one I was first British picked in there, and I actually got my timing right. I delivered on the day, and it is about the delivery on the day. So if someone says to me, and I think that's something that I was quite good at, if someone said to me, you have to be fit for this event, which was the Olympic trials, I would say, okay, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get to that race, to deliver the result that I needed to do to get myself to the Olympic Games. And I achieved that. For Athens. Sydney was a little bit different because I was coming into the sport new, and I was actually picked as reserve, and I got put in because someone was injured. So there was two different kind of scenarios for me in the situation. But in terms of, if we go back to the original question of the 4-year cycle, it's a long process. It is a process, and in that process you have to, like I say, have the stepping stone events leading in, and you have to stay very focused, and you have to get your timing pretty much spot on in order to make that Olympic trials.
That's amazing. I have to say that this is very interesting, especially now, considering that all your knowledge you're transferring on your second Michelle Dillon as a coach, because all this experience on how to deal with the stress and the long focus on something. So like in 4 years, it can give so much to people that they are learning from you. And especially there was another big thing happening in your life. It was your spinal fusion surgery. So you told me that the doctor, they told you that you couldn't race again. So that is another very turning point of your life. So tell me something about it, because probably there are a few people that they had a similar problem. They had a spinal surgery or another kind of surgery, and this changed their career or changed their possibility to race and create a lot of frustration inside. How you were able to cope with that, and which tool did you use?
Well, basically, I was probably one of the unlucky people that throughout my whole career as a runner, very young, and also as a triathlete, I had a lot of injury problems. That was one thing that I had to deal with a lot in my career, and most of the injuries were my back. So through the whole Olympic cycle, not so much Sydney, but through the Athens cycle, from Sydney to Athens, I had a lot of in and out of hospital, getting disc injections, and basically getting me to the race. I actually had an epidural in my spine 10 days before the Athens Olympics.
Oh.
To get me on the start line. And I think what I learned with the back injury was that it made me kind of a lot stronger mentally, because I had to deal with so many setbacks a lot of the time, and I had to try to stay very positive throughout this situation and hold it together and say, am I going to give up, or am I going to keep going? Am I going to find an answer? And for me, I'm one of those people that don't really give up that easily. So I'm always looking for the answer. Like, something has to be done. Can I find someone to help me in order to give me some treatment, or is there some exercises I can do to strengthen myself up, or what can I do in order to get myself to, especially for Athens at that time, it was very it was a rocky road leading into it. I'd qualified. Once I'd qualified, my things can flare up any minute with back problems. I mean, anyone that has a back problem will know this. I mean, I had eventually end up having double fusion in my spine. It was about, so Athens was 2004, and then 2008. So 4 years later, I didn't quite make it to the Beijing. I was trying to go to Beijing as well to make it three Olympic Games, but didn't quite make it there. And I really pushed it all the way to 2007 and had some good success. I had doctors. I got to a point where in 2007, I had to go to a couple of doctors and say, here's my scans. What do you think? One doctor said, I wouldn't even bother even trying any further because your back is in such a bad condition. You need to give up right now. Then another doctor said, you know what? You might have 1 or 2 years left in you. But remember, you're making things a little bit worse, and you are going to eventually need surgery. And I grabbed hold of the second opinion, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try and keep going for another couple of years, because that's me. And I thought, I'm just gonna see, because I felt like I had more to give, and I feel like if you feel like you have more to give, why do you want to give up? Do you know what I mean? And I was only at that time like 32 and stuff, and I felt like I was too young to give it away. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to keep going for a couple of years. And it was real rocky. It was a roller coaster ride. My back kept on giving way and everything. And I did everything in my power to get myself on that start line. And I had some fantastic races. 2007, I felt like it was a very successful career, year. However, things were deteriorating very, very quickly towards the end of the year. And then at the end of 2007, I got hit by a car while out running, and that kind of just stopped everything for me. Oh. I fell on my back, and then it was just like, you know what? And I think it kind of like, it made me realize, like, what are you doing? Why are you going to keep pushing yourself? And then that was when I kind of like got some more investigations done on my back, and I realized, okay, my back's not in a great way. I need the double fusion now, and I need to maybe retire. So yeah, so it's tough. I mean, anyone that has back problems will know this, and it's I wouldn't say like you can't race and you should give up. I think there's always an answer, and there's always, where there's a will, there's a way. If you have the right support system around you, the right doctors, the right physios, you're doing the right exercises, the right rehab stuff, and you're managing it well, I think you can achieve some really amazing things that you didn't realize you can achieve. And I've realized that coming back into age group racing now. So yeah,
And
definitely.
how did you, because you were speaking about also this kind of, switching. So, of course, you realized that in 2007, you had such a good year. And then after that, the back injuries, they were too much to keep going as an athlete, as a pro athlete. So you had to reframe and switch to coaching. How did you manage this transition? It's so difficult. I would imagine it's so difficult to go from a pro athlete to someone actually that is working with athletes. So probably inside of you there was still that competitive, that you still wanted to race, but in reality you have to coach. It's amazing that coaching, of course, is a beautiful skill, a beautiful thing that someone can have a coach like you, was so talented. But the other face of all of this is like there must be a little bit of a completely mind shift in a way, because you are not an athlete, you're a coach for an athlete. So how you did this? How did you manage this transition?
Yeah, look, it wasn't easy, I must admit, just because I think facing a forced retirement is always a little bit like disappointing. Um, but what was good about the whole situation was, naturally I'm someone who really wants to help people. I love helping people. I get a lot out of it. And I've always done that naturally, even when I was an athlete. So I was kind of coaching and always giving people advice. And I'm a little bit of a natural leader, I think. And I think that kind of was, something that I thought immediately, okay, I'm going to become a coach because this is something I love doing. So I was coaching my husband, my husband now, he wasn't then, and we were getting some fantastic results. And one thing led to another, and when I had my back brace on and I was recovering from the surgery, I realized, you know what, I'm going to start building my own business, and I'm going to call it Team Dillon Coaching. And so I started to build, and I wanted to really use that time on the recovery phase, not to get down and out, but to really be productive and to put it into something more positive. And that's when I started to build my business up, because I thought, you know what, I can help people. I can make something of this, and I can give back all of my knowledge, everything I've learned in the sport, because I feel like I've had such a journey that I have so much to give back. And this would be such a waste if I didn't do this. So this is when I wanted to give back, and immediately I put my website up, and I had so many inquiries coming in. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So that was really rewarding for me to know that people out there wanted me to help them. And immediately I felt at ease with the whole situation, because I felt like, it made the transition a little bit easier for me, because then all of a sudden I wasn't really focusing so much on myself anymore. I was more focusing on how was I going to help other people to achieve their goals. And that made me really happy and, very fulfilled. So it was a perfect situation for me. And I haven't looked back since, because we've been going now for, I think it was 12 years ago since I started Team Dillon Coaching. I've helped so many people, from beginners all the way to professional athletes, and I've had some world age group champions on podiums. Some athletes winning, professional athletes on the podium at 70.3 world championships, world cups, and it just makes me so happy. So for me to be able to do something that is my passion now as my job, it's incredible, and I couldn't be more thankful, to be honest.
That is, it's a bless that you decided to teach, because realistically, I think not everyone, they have that capacity and will to teach their knowledge and what they learn in their journey. So it's amazing that you took that decision. Is a blessing for any athlete and pro athlete that had the opportunity to work with you. So speaking about pro athlete, because you teach not only to athletes in general, but the proper pro athlete. How do you teach your pro athlete to be the best they can be on the race day, on race day? Which kind of tips, but not just tips, how do you really teach them?
Well, yeah, it is different. Coaching an age group athlete is slightly different to coaching an elite athlete or professional athlete, because a professional athlete, it's their career. So it means so much. They're putting a lot into it. They're actually giving up a hell of a lot to be a professional athlete, as I know because I was. You giving up going out and, being a social butterfly and drinking and, doing the normal things that normal people do. You have to really sacrifice a lot to become a professional athlete. But what I would say, I mean, obviously, because I've been there and I know the journey that they're on, is that I always teach them that obviously if you can be consistent in your training, that's got to be the key. You've got to have the attitude to be the best athlete. Otherwise, without a good attitude and a positive attitude, it's going to be tough, because triathlon is a really tough sport. And you've got to have that commitment and that really high work ethic in order to be able to, commit to the goal, and not give up easily. That's really important as well, because, if you have someone who just sort of imagines they're going to be a professional athlete and then try to come in to do the work that's required to be at the top, and not have that work ethic or commitment or drive or passion for that, then they'll find out very quickly that it's not for them. And I've had that. I've had some people come in and trial it, and within a couple of months they're not doing the sport anymore, because you want to either do the work and have what it takes, and that comes from not just physically but more from a mental point of view, or you just don't want to do it. And I don't think triathlon's for someone who is a lazy person, to be honest. So you know what I mean? It's such a high amount of training that you have to do on a day-to-day that you really either want it or you don't. So it's really the three things that I tell my athletes is the consistency. It's a really, really positive, a driven attitude towards your training, and the commitment to be able to commit to it and not give up easily. They're the three really important things.
Yeah, and I think to go now on the Olympic podium, that you have been there. So which are the extra, with your experience, which are the extra knowledge or things that you need to take to stand on an Olympic podium? The mental preparation, physical preparation, visualization, which are the tools or help to go on the maximum that is the Olympic podium, basically?
I mean, obviously, there's only a couple of spots for the Olympic Games, and it does take a special person to be able to qualify. As I said, the qualification is the hardest thing. It takes talent, but it also takes someone who has, like I say, a very high work ethic, someone who is able to ride through the tough times, because it's easy to be positive when everything's going well, but it's not easy to stay positive when things are going wrong. And I think this is where it's the character of the person. If they can be, if they can ride through the tough times and stay positive and still very driven and motivated when things aren't going so well, so injuries, when they're sick. Maybe when they're not getting the results that they expected, but actually still hanging in there, hanging tough, they're the ones who are probably going to make it at the end, because they're the ones that don't give up very easily. But visualization is very important as well. The mental side of things, like I say, you have to be strong mentally, but you have to be able to, visualize yourself like standing on that start line and have a strong visual on a day-to-day. Like imagine in training that you're sitting, that you're winning that race, that like to get you through a hard training session, you should be able to visualize, why am I doing this hard training session for? I'm not just doing it for fun. I'm not just existing in the moment. I'm doing this for a purpose. The purpose is because I want to be an Olympian. I want to go to the Olympic Games, or I want to be a world champion. And there has to be purpose behind the session that they're doing, because pushing hard's not for everybody, as we know, but it does take that special person to be able to tap into the mindset of being able to go that extra mile, that extra length, go to the extra the deep dark place where not many people want to go, and it's really like, if it came down to, because every professional athlete, when it comes down to it, they all pretty much do the same kind of training. So in a race situation, if it comes down to it and you see five people running together at the end of a race, it really comes down to who is willing to dig the deepest here in order to win, who wants it the most, and that is the question that, you ask yourself. It's like, who really wants to win this race? And you can see people that kind of let up and don't want it as much as that person that's got that real eye of the tiger that wants to just drive it all the way to the line. They want to win the race, and that is like, that's the sign of a true champion.
So I can see here a sign of another true a true champion that is in you. Want to return back on racing as an age group, and I'm absolutely amazed that you're again on the podium. So after what you have passed through with your back injured and everything, you just don't expect that you're back, and you're back on the podium. So tell me more about it. Why did you decide to come back?
That's a good question, actually. I think I've always kept fit. I've always kept fit throughout, ever since I've retired, and I do train regularly with my professional athletes. I train side by side, on the bike, and but sometimes on the run, on a long run or something. I've done that in the past. But something inside of me was like, do you know what? I hadn't swum for like 10 years, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to start swimming again. And it was tough. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't swim at all. And I just thought, do you know what? One thing led to another. I started to get a little bit fitter in the pool, and I thought, okay, let me do a race. And when I started on the race, I realized, it never leaves you. This drive, this competitive side of you, it never leaves you. And all of a sudden, I thought, hold on a second, I want to win this race. I don't want to just be like kind of competing and making up the numbers. I want to win this race. So the first race I came back to, my first triathlon, was at Dorney Lake last year, and I won, but I was behind a little bit in the swim, and I was beating myself up in the water going, you didn't swim enough, you didn't swim enough. I was a little bit back, and I made up time on the bike, and I made up time on the run, and then I ran through to win, and I qualified for World Championships. And I thought, okay, I've qualified for World Championships. This is giving me a huge goal now, in order to, the drive to train hard again. Let's get some consistent training. Let's do lots of swimming, biking, and running. So I started to train a little bit harder. I did a couple more races, which I won. And then I saw, some improvements along the way. Then I went to World Championships and I won the race. And I was like, oh my God, like I was so happy. And, again, it was fantastic. And the fact that I actually got the fastest time out of all age groups, I was kind of gobsmacked a little bit, because I thought, really? Like, can I really still be, as competitive as this at my age? And I still have a lot of injury problems that I deal with. So, my back still gives me grief, and I'm not running as much as I'd like to a lot of the time. But when I do get up and running, it comes back very quickly, luckily, because I am from a running background and because I have the background I have, I guess. So what I do is I just work hard on the swim. I work hard on the bike stuff when I'm not able to run as much, and then just try to work on the injury, do lots of rehab, and then get myself back running as quick as possible. But yeah, I don't know, like I just enjoyed it, and I've given myself a goal this year. In 4.5 weeks' time, I have the World Championships again in Lausanne, and training's going well, and I'm excited about it, and I just love it, and I get a hell of a lot out of it. And when I cross that finish line, it gives me, a hell of a lot of pleasure to be able to still do what I'm doing. And I think that you can't take that for granted. It's a kind of a gift. If you can still do it, then do it. Don't let anybody change your mind. Do it because you want to do it, and because life's too short at the end of the day. And one day I won't be able to.
But also, I have to say, you dedicated your entire life, basically, from when you started running, and after then embracing triathlon, duathlon, triathlon. You spend so much time of your life on this kind of wanted to achieve, that probably if you lose, if you don't do it, you feel that you lose some part of yourself, I would imagine, no?
Definitely, you're totally right, Erica. It's so true. Like, I found like I'm a lot happier when I am back doing my training on a day-to-day at this level. Not that I wasn't happy before, because I always kept fit, but it was different. It was a huge adjustment for me, whereas I feel more like at home when I'm kind of doing this high volume intensity training, because I work a lot on the mental side of things with myself as well. So I'm always being able to tap back into that mental push. And I really enjoy that about that. I love challenging myself. And I think that's what I love about the training.
How do you do that? How do you find that mental push? How you arrive? Which is the point? How you get this? Yeah, this is the push I need to give to go to the next level. Because I mean, personally, I always find difficult that moment that you say, okay, I'm at next level. And then you need to do another step. And that other step is very mentally and physically very difficult. But then when you start to do it, you realize, actually, I can do it. But how do you help yourself, especially yourself, because you are such a good athlete? How do you know when you can push a little bit more to go to another level?
It's a weird one, because you have to just know, you almost have to be willing to go to that deep, dark place. You have to be willing to kind of almost feel a bit sick. And I don't know if someone naturally has that or they don't have that. But for me, I can make myself almost physically sick in training, which, you know, I can push myself to that. It's something you tap into in your brain. I don't know. I mean, I remember being a runner once, and I remember tapping into it thinking, is it that part of the brain? Is it this part of the brain? But I was like running along thinking, I'm pushing to, like, you know, to a level I've never pushed to before. And then once you've tapped into it once, it's almost like you can tap into it again. It's just this place you go to where it's a very, very uncomfortable place, a place where not many people want to go, but you're willing to go there. If that can, that's all I can explain. It's a strange one, and I think you just have to be willing to hurt that much. But obviously, for me, mentally I can push, but for me, my body's always let me down, because my body will say, not so much on the swim bike now, because I can push hard on that and I can get so much out of myself, but it's the running, because the running, it's the injuries that hold me back. You know, it's that will be the thing that physically stops me. It's not the mental push, it's the physical side of things as you get older, and the injuries and things like that. So, but I think if you have that drive to be able to push, you know, every time you go back and do it, and I think that develops over many, many years of being an athlete. I don't think you can just come in, or maybe some people naturally have it, but you can come into the sport and you can be willing to push yourself. I mean, like, you look at Alistair Brownlee, like, I mean, he can push hard. He can push harder than most people, and you can just see that it's almost like a switch goes on in your head, and you're just willing to give it everything, and, you know, willing to red line that. That's when he's taking himself, like, away from people in races and things like that. And for you can keep this going and going and going, when most people think, this is hurting, I'm going to pull back a bit now. These people just keep going. So yeah. There's a fine line on knowing how to be able to tap into that. But, you know, like I say, I think it's something that you can learn. You can teach yourself how to do it by just. It's almost like training yourself physically. You can train yourself mentally to be able to tap into that, if you're willing to go to that next level of hurt. I used to always say to myself, you know, pain is my friend. because that way, you know, once the pain hits in, you think, you know, some people, that's a trigger to say, okay, it's painful now, I'm going to pull back. But if you can sort of push through that kind of barrier and say, okay, pain is good because it's going to make me faster, or pain is my friend. I mean, in a good way, not painful like that you're hurting yourself.
I totally understand. So pain actually is your friend, because pain, it brings you on the podium.
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
And were you, because pushing, of course, I don't know. But what I notice in my experience, and I'm not a good athlete at all, but I like to do sports. So I noticed actually using the treadmill was really good for me to step
Yes.
on another level, because you are forced to go faster. I mean, if you tip and you just go, okay, I keep adding speed,
Yes.
you cannot, if you don't
Yes.
follow that.
Yeah, exactly, Erica. That's so true. I mean, and that's something that I would tell my athletes that I coach to use as a training tool. The treadmill's perfect because it does force a pace on you, and it makes you accountable for the session. So if you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to set myself at 15 kilometers an hour for these efforts, then you feel that you're accountable to that, and you feel that you want to hold that, and you're more likely to do it even though it's painful, rather than if you're going to go out and try to run on the watch or the Garmin or something like this, because you're then able to allow yourself to slow down if something's not there forcing you to run faster. So yeah, it is true, and that's like having a virtual coach there saying, okay, my coach said set this to 15, 16k an hour. You have to try to hold that pace today, and that's going to make you accountable for that session, and that's a really good training tool to use for sure.
Well, I have to
Definitely.
say, for my training for this 70.3 Ironman, because we relocated in Vancouver here, I said, oh, okay, great, here the mountains, lakes, amazing place where there is the wall, the sea wall where you can run. And we have a gym downstairs. So I said, oh, fantastic. And I started there to appreciate as the treadmill, because before I never really liked it. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I just want to go somewhere where I can, not thinking about the effort, just look things, takes you somewhere. But realistically, I realized how important the were the session that I did on the treadmill, where I put a speed that I couldn't keep for 1 minute, not even for 30 seconds. Initially was like a few seconds extra because I was so fast. So for me, it just lagged. I couldn't really stay on it. So, and every time I was just saying, okay, now it's 30 seconds, and then 1 minute. And then from 1 minute, I went to 5 minutes without realizing it. So from
Yes.
one session, I said, I can't take it more than this 30 seconds. And then suddenly, next time, I was able to do it for 5 minutes, because in my mind, I knew I could do it
Yes.
for 30 seconds. So I said, oh no, I can do a little bit more. Then I get really distracted by other things, and then you go more on the pain, and you just keep going and realize, oh, well, I did 5 minutes. Oh, well, I did 10 minutes. I did 20 minutes at the speed that you didn't expect. So, and I find it really interesting, the treadmill, just because it allows you to align the mind and the body. Meanwhile, otherwise, the mind goes somewhere if you use your legs, and the body goes somewhere else. So sometimes the mind is stronger than the body, like in your case, where you say, my mind can keep going, but my body, it just says stop because I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. The treadmill is good because it gives you a good stimulus as well. So you probably got a bit of stimulus from the first session that you did, and then you went back and you had that stimulation of running fast, and then it sort of propelled you forward and gave you that stimulus from the first session to the second session to make you run further for that period of time. And it's very good. It's a very good tool for leg speed as well, because you can jump on and off the treadmill and just work on your leg speed and your turnover. Good for turnover, good to pick up the cadence, because it pushes your foot back naturally, and you have to bring your foot forward by yourself. So focusing on the foot drive forward is really all you have to focus on, because the belt is pushing your leg back for you. So it is really good for leg speed, and it is really good for stimulus. I mean, it's a fantastic tool. So you've got to keep using that, Erica. You have to keep using it.
Oh, well, I'm so excited. And about biking, do you normally do also session, or you tend to advise a session using something like Sufferfest? I don't know if you know about Sufferfest, or this kind of, Swift, or do you normally use it, you personally, as an athlete, or no?
No, I don't use it for me personally. I just like to tap into my own mind and feel what I'm feeling with my body. And I think that's very good to do that sometimes, because when you go into a race, you don't have that virtual something in front of you. You have to really know how you're feeling, and if you've been doing that in training, it's good to be able to tap back into that same feeling that you've had in training. So I don't personally like it, but I know some of my athletes do, and it's good for variety, and it's good to bring in something different and to keep them motivated, because some people, don't have the motivation to ride by themselves all the time, day in, day out, whereas I do. So it's a little bit different. And also people can use power, so they can, a little bit like the treadmill, it sort of forces you to be accountable for a power. If you hold, if you're giving your athletes certain powers to hold, that's really good. And it can give them something to focus on, something to race perhaps as well, and also to see improvements as well. So it's a good gauge to have power there. And again, personally, I know I have used it in the past, but I prefer not to. I
Yeah.
like to go if I feel.
And
But again,
how is now to compete as an age group compares to how it was when you were as a pro athlete? So which is the difference?
well, obviously, as a professional athlete, you're training all day. You're training all day, and you don't have a job, and you're pretty much dedicating your whole life to the sport. I still dedicate my whole life to the sport, but I share myself around now. I can't just train all day long. I have to train in the morning, and then I have to do my work in the evening or in the middle of the day, and I'm doing phone calls, and I'm planning people's training, and I'm working on admin for the business and things like that. So now I have to section it all out and dedicate my time and have good time management, basically. So yeah, as a professional athlete, you can have a nap in the daytime, and you can do 3 sessions a day. Now I do one, but mainly 2 sessions per day, but sometimes one when I don't have time. And I do take it serious, but obviously I'm not taking it as serious as I was as a professional athlete, because now I can drink alcohol and things like that.
So also party time.
Yeah, of course, but in moderation, of course. But of course, I do that, and I didn't as a professional athlete. Really, it was only a special occasion. But now, I find myself, I like to go out on a Saturday night or something and have some drinks with friends, and then I might be a bit hungover on Sunday, so I'll do one thing, and then I'll sit back on the sofa and maybe do some admin for the rest of the day.
So I love it because as a age group, in any case, you are still competing, still on the podium, but you have a party time too.
Yeah, for sure. Look, and this is a thing that's very important that people have to realize as well. It is about the balance. I mean, I'm a very balanced person. I mean, I train really hard when I train hard, don't get me wrong, and I can push myself really hard and all the rest of it. And I am a very focused and motivated person, but at the same time, I also like to have some fun too. And I like to have a really good balance in my life. So, we go out for dinner a couple of times a week or once a week or whatever it's going to be. We go for drinks with friends. I might have a drink of red wine at home if I fancy it. I still have to get up and train the next morning early, but as long as I have it in moderation, it's all fine. I'm not going to be, I don't want to become obsessed. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, this is not my career anymore. I do this because I enjoy it, and I get a hell of a lot out of it, and I want to inspire people for sure. But at the same time, I want to have a good balance in my life, because like I say, life's too short, and I want to enjoy. I want to be able to enjoy all parts of my life, and I think that's just so important for your mental health as well as everything else. Because if you get too wrapped up in being sort of like how I was as a professional athlete, now at my age at 46, I would probably be doing it all wrong, I think. And I don't think you really would enjoy it as much, and you probably wouldn't be as successful, to be honest, because the balance really, it's nice to have that yin and yang, do you know what I mean, in your life. It's very important. It makes me happy. And if you're enjoying it and you're happy, then you're doing it right.
Yeah. So Totally on your page, totally. And I think when you find your passion, when you find your satisfaction, and I think also you coming back as a age group athlete and finding yourself back on podium must be so satisfying. It must be
Oh,
so
it's
good.
nice. It is really nice, and I love it, and I just get that same adrenaline like from racing, and I put the pressure on myself, but in a good way, like it's. And I just like that. I like that challenge. It makes me happy. And then, if I do well at a race, like last year after the World Championships, I celebrated with my family, which is so nice in Australia. We had a couple of bottles of champagne, and it's all worth it. It's all worth the hard work, because then you can share it with the people that you love around you and that you care for, and we can all celebrate it together, and puts a massive smile on my face.
That's beautiful. So, how we can get inspired from you and find you on social media? Which are where I can find you, where everyone they can find you on social media to be inspired?
Oh, well, we have a website, so Team Dillon Coaching, www.teamdilloncoaching.com, and you can inquire for coaching, and we also put up some blogs and things on there, and some results that you can have a look back from over the many years that we've been up and running for. We're also very active on Instagram, Team Dillon Coaching on Instagram, Facebook as well, and Twitter. So you can find us across all of the social media channels, and if you please follow us, and hopefully we can inspire you to, if you have never done a triathlon before, hopefully we can inspire you to do one. And if you're an athlete, a triathlete, a runner, a swimmer, a biker, whatever, that wants to go to the next level, maybe we can help you. Or even if you're a professional athlete looking, to look for another coach or some help, then we're here to help you as well. So really, please look us up, and hopefully you can get in touch with us, and we can help you on your journey.
Well, fantastic. I tell you what, thanks so much for your very inspiring and very thoughtful, and with all the advice that they give us, that you're giving us. So thanks so much for your time. Thanks so much for all of this. Enjoy your next race that it will be in 4 weeks, you said. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, 4.5 weeks in Lausanne. The World Championships. But thank you so much for having me, Erica. You're such a sweetie, and I really enjoyed talking to you today. And hopefully you'll do really well in your next race as well, because you already smashed it last weekend, which is amazing.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Your advice are always useful. So thanks so much. I will say I did the thought about you during the race, so you know it. So because of your advice. So thanks so much, and see you next time. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Erica.
I hope you enjoyed the episode as I did recording it. You can check out all the links regarding our guest in the show notes. Stay tuned.